Hello. Hello, this is John Nathan. And this is me, woo, being blown away by the imagery and perception and leadership and ownership and stewardship of one Miss Miley Cyrus. Miss Miley Cyrus and her therapy showing and her ability to be able to translate the experience of what that's like for someone to have to need for that to be the part of the narrative that not only would she self-identify as been born with, but navigates publicly as a persona, as an individual, as a combination of both, and bringing the best of both of those worlds together for our enjoyment, wish fulfillment, as well as for our psyche and our psychological perspective in human culture, in human existence, in the life of young women, in the life of young women in the spotlight, in popular music, in popular corporation culture. Understanding the identity that is impressed upon not just the nation and the people, but for the individual who is in the performance, who can then later, with that telescopic perspective, look back and identify how and what and where and when was true in that moment versus what was being experienced as true. It's a very difficult lens to be able to be patient and selfless and hopeful and kind with. And to understand that you have to allow for that to be experienced also means that there's jealousy and selfishness and hopelessness and blindness to what was happening or what did happen or what didn't happen. And to see ourselves in that authentic light, to be able to have to look back on that. 20 years later, Miss Hannah Montana circulating around with the opening credit of "It's Good to Be Home." To say on stage and set and like so many who grew up with not only this on your television or in your on your DVD, DVR, but also as the lead section of entertainment for many people, and probably way outside of my age range and pay grade, but was definitely that after school special that it was so inviting and necessary in a time that was shifting away from that automated regular, like, what are you doing at 4:30? What are you doing at 5? These things are on and you're not going to catch it again. Into the internet culture and instant access to everything. And knowing specifically also this is the end of DVD era, end of CD and record sales, and end of merchandising in that way. That we didn't identify as somebody who's 12, 13, 14 years old, managing on their shoulders with the image and the performance and the live tour and the merchandise and the TV ratings in and of themselves. And also then being able to offer their own perspective as a singer-songwriter and actress who's been doing this since the day they were born, that the image in and of itself is as if they were in a movie. Living in that cinematic lifestyle then creates being not that so much more complicated, difficult, less functional. And in the several interviews that I was able to identify some very serious therapy, not only showing, being discussed, being explained, being perceived, being offered, in no form of obligation, but in engagement and passion and compassion for the human being, the vessel that Miss Miley Cyrus has carried through her life as a person, having the relationship with her famous parents, but also with now, like, as a child star, having to be as she said for herself in her interview with Miss Monica Lewinsky, specifically from Reclaiming, where she specified I mothered myself. She models the way she treats her inner child now that she's had her therapy, now that she's had perspective and time and shifting away. And from her words, like the fear that was present has been soothed and coped by a mothering technique that she only was able to learn from separating from her mother, who was her attachment, and her driven behavior to want to be capable for self that then brought the work around. Because when you're doing the level of output and productivity and performance that's in the billions for $1 billion corporation, people don't think about the fact that you can't do that for yourself brushing your teeth at home. Like, every little thing is a mind fuck move of a chess piece and a chess board in a game that is in $1 billion global economic structure. that does something to someone. That does something to people. And for her to even want to come back 20 years later, for those of us who need it, who need that fucking intro, who need the best of both worlds, who need to remind ourselves that we really are rock stars, that we are and part of I think the thing that makes her so necessary for the conversation about therapy and mental health and the perspective of somebody who's been in it their whole life, who's been judged and accused of not having that and not being perfect and not being presentable or respectable for children. She says very specifically in her own language where she was people's nannies. They grew up with her. You popped Hannah Montana on, you knew that your kids were going to be safe. And when she chose to separate and disassociate herself from the imagery of that and make Miley, it came with the reception that she was no longer safe to be around their children. And that was something that I think listening to her understand her love for herself, her compassion for herself, it takes a lot of love and compassion to be able to identify that that was the cause, whether that was hers or not. Like that's what she was told is the root cause, and that's what she was able to manage and repair and replace in her life. And understanding that people can suck, people are fucking assholes, but also that her work was honest and that her integrity remains, and that she can look back on these things as expression, because she does hold that Party in the USA value of that self-worth that says she knows what her value is, she knows what her worth is, separate from Hannah and Miss Montana and all of the other identity that we were sold and marketed in her image. And also understanding and being able to come back, the level of humility that it takes to be able to look at, the $1 billion corporation that you said fuck you to, and to say, you know what, I know I used to be crazy, but I also used to be young. And I'm ready to remind, and I think what I've received from her versions of rebellion and revolution is that she's taking ownership of the fact that she created an image that she had no control over, but that it's still, she has the obligation and the responsibility. Not I'm saying she does. She has found in her many decades of pondering this and living it and being separated from it and having it taken from her and having the narrative shifted that she's a bad person or she's this and that because she can't uphold a written image for her. It's very, very, like, do we not have rules and laws against that? But also in the same way, it was the design of the experience, of the experiment, of the brand, of the franchise in and of itself, of Hannah Montana. 2 different lives, best of both worlds. Whip out your shades in your hair and you can go anywhere. And then also to be able to separate yourself from that. It's not something that everybody experiences. For a lot of us in our regular lives, it's not at 12 years old. That's during, high school and the milestones and the markers of like society and culture and community. And so to even understand as people, especially because of the fact that we were grown up with Miley Stewart's version of what Billy Ray Stewart's version of what Jackson Stewart's version in Hannah universe was about how to regulate body, regulate self, regulate emotion, and then go back out there into the world and perceive and be something else and let it be larger than life and still maintain basic relationships and strategies in your existence. And that wasn't true. That was guidance. And it is true in itself, but that wasn't her real life experience. And her expectation that I personally witnessed every fucking buddy, especially a bunch of those Cookie Monster pajama wearing moms who would pop that fucking DVD in there and then be like, the kids watch Hannah Montana. I loved that show. It is parallel to a lot of things that I experienced. It is watching a different version of what franchising was. I'm into the sales and the marketing of the fact that it was one, like, she's not the Lizzie McGuire of my generation. She's the Hannah Montana of her generation. And that happens very rarely with these large corporations who build franchise that way. If they don't get squashed down or beefed out or aged out, then it becomes something different. And this one was like live performance watching of what are they going to do next? Because this is a young child who has the perception of grown adult. And then we see them all roll out, the Jonas Brothers, the Demi Lovatos, the Selena Gomez. And there'd already been a storied version of what a child star, what a Disney star, what that meant. And then to also be unraveling like in real time as this is a younger child who's running off the cusp of like people asking about your virginity in live TV interview and headline and newspaper. And in her interview with Monica Lewinsky in the podcast Reclaiming with Monica Lewinsky specifically, like it wasn't on my agenda to be watching that. I was trying to look up like like old interviews from her that weren't from Banger's era or Plastic Hearts, and now that we're in her Something Beautiful era, it is good to be home. It's that she found the place where Miley is living in order to be able to, and I wrote these out just listening to the various also the interview with Lulu Garcia Nuevera, like the challenge of language and understanding that she brought, that I in like the intuition and the innate behavior of myself identifying therapy and others can, like, that's what I'm drawn to this for specifically. Like, I watched this child grow up with me and my understanding of especially like as a late bloomer emotionally or whatnot, especially somebody who used to like suppress emotion, that music is the only way that I express that to a completion. Like my way of therapy, therapizing myself in a moment is to go to Avril Lavigne's Under My Skin and listen to all 43 minutes and 42 seconds of the entirety of the album. And if I cannot do that, or if I cannot resolve whatever is happening within my body and my brain and the connection between those, then it's something that needs to be handled on another day. And to learn that over the course of several decades, but to know that's what the design of this show was for, like specifically, that's why I'm so attached to it. Not, I also like can whip out my shades in my hair and go anywhere, but at the same time, it was that storied arc of A, B, and C leading to a necessity that was resolved by the end of the evening. And then everybody was happy in 30 minutes or less. And you just don't have that anymore. And we also didn't have that in a way that was tied to a musical version that was overexposed and sold and marketed, that then created a negative impact conversation that was, should this be happening? Like, it took away from the artistry of what that was. I recognize that in somebody who was so young, but not because that was part of the machine. Like, that was what they put into the machine, and someone had that level of voice and talent and understanding at such a young age to hold the conversation and host that, and then be supported by other people doing the same thing at a different value. But this one was pre-fame, Hannah Montana, the largest like tour and marketing strategy of Disney in the global economy at that time. The backyard shenanigans in and of itself that she had to like disassociate with just to be able to breathe in her own version of a machine. Like, not that like she, like that's just part of that world. We don't have that. You might have a YouTube or an internet or something. You don't have $1 billion happiest place on earth done and dusting every little moment around you in order for you to be able to have to decide if you're going to live in rebellion or if you want to be a part of a revolution that you're not even conceptualizing, because as she over repeats, like it reiterates through the recognition of her own ownership of language is part of like Miss Miley Cyrus. Your therapy is showing my necessity to understand more about how to be more compassionate for myself in the alignment and engagement of this type of work, because I know I do the work. It's being able to explain it in the way that she does that is not only processed, but reprocessed and overstood. And to me, that is a necessity in this type of work, to be able to be capable and quantifiable about when large trauma events happen. And yet that's like, to her, she was a massive success. Does not negate the physical trauma experience the body is conditioned to have to overcome no matter what. Like she says specifically, she does not perform in the 250,000 people stadium arena and anymore. Her body will not go through that. She will not put her body through that. It's different than my body can't handle it, and a lot of it's like it can't do that. I'm not even trying to go to a baseball game anymore. My body needs to acclimate and adapt. But to know, like to bring that level of assignment to self, that's that in that self incorporation that says risk management and factor, that is not for me. For somebody with that level of voice, that is a very great value and appreciation of self that says this is more valuable to me than what I could be doing financially or status wise, because making those types of productions happen bring you lots of merit in the world, especially in like the unions and the money and the banks and all of the people who siphon off of that. But also being a part of the tank without being the main attraction or star, and being her own version of that. Being able to bring that in, the concept of a 20-year anniversary of Hannah Montana, re-engagement. Like I wrote down humility. I think being humble, like that, it's different because I followed that narrative so closely of like, oh, she like the way that the portrayal was. Oh, she can't handle it. She can't handle not being Hannah Montana. And then she also cannot handle being a regular person because she doesn't know who she is. Like, Yeah, because she just quit the job 2 weeks ago. Like literally, she was 16 years old at the time or so, and to want to separate yourself from that, like I've once been told that I'm so private that not even my parents know who I am. And could you imagine having every single aspect of your privacy like just completely on display at every minute of your ownership of your life, up until before you're even a legal grown adult? And for that to be the experience of success that you have, that through the lens of creating value for self, that you're able to come up with language that allow for you to admit that it was pain or that this was not a pleasurable experience for all of it. And that other people, and there's part of the issue is like, not everybody's going to grow up having to be 12 years old in front of 250,000 people. That is a very select group of people who went through a very select machine that produces that outcome. So for us to be able to listen to our elders, like Miss Miley Cyrus is like 10 years younger than me. She's in her 30s. She's brought her perspective and her work ethic to the therapy of what younger, like the literal Hannah Montana 20th year anniversary is from me to younger you. Could not imagine a better way for this person, like this character, to be able to reunite singer, songwriter, actress, and bring that version of those of us who need that back into our lives, to remind ourselves that like you were young, you might have been crazy, but you were young, and that to be young and to be able to, what you say, I see myself being authentic to me when she looks back on herself in all of the bullshit and all of the trauma. It's not to say it was the greatest behavior. It's to say that was correct for her in her expression. And now the version of that is the therapy showing is for her to be able to explain through whatever fucking reason in the level of protection that she brings to herself through compassion and engagement and owning the narrative. It's like, yeah, that's exactly what happened. That's exactly like Miss Cardi B says, like, when you see what I've seen, you end up like this. And now that we've moved on to this section over here, why are you still living over there? That's because you live in the past, and that's because you haven't been able to move on from a 25-year career that this young child has had. Why are you not paying attention to the grown woman that's in front of you with a brand new album out and new music? Are you not able to identify with that? Then maybe you need to shift the conversation. And for her to be able to bring that in like the course of like of an album or a song or an hour engagement or a 20-minute interview, because she's so fucking trained to be able to bring that out since birth. She says in her interview, like she was in utero on stage at her dad's concerts, and just the program of that is before she was born. She cannot fight that moonlight. And to know that about yourself, like, oh yeah, she really is, not just really is, but she really is a rock star, and she owns that. She owns the complexity of that and what that complexity brings for the need to bring the back brace and the backbone of this type of trauma. Like, yeah, it's a traumatic experience what she went through. Her life is built on a series of traumatic experiences publicly exposed. Different than everybody's got fucking problems, but yours aren't on first and second and sixth page news, and you need to like navigate your family and your fame and your $1 billion company that fires you the second you smoke a bong at 16 years old. Like, how fucking how necessary to reclaim the idea that like that child should have been protected. Like those things should have been not only protected but also like correct me if I'm wrong, I beg to differ, but $1 billion in merchandise in 2007 alone, or between the years of when Hannah Montana was active, $1 billion in merchandise, hundreds of millions in gross profits for Disney in a $88.7 billion industry in the year of its height. So emotional hoarding that she brings up through the process of like, she held all that. She held all that as a child into her teens, and then held the fucking public perspective of it into her 30s until she's just recently learned to let go. Her EMDR and then her therapy showing specifically, but like offering her the stewardship to bring a humility. Like, it takes a huge humbling experience to be able to step back into a thing that you worked so hard to separate from because you didn't understand how important it was going to be to you later. A lot of us have that outfit. A lot of us have that wig. A lot of us know that, and a lot of us have gone through the image shifting in order to match the way you feel inside. And knowing that, every time she does is the banger for one, but in the most creative and brave and courageous versions of allowing what it fucking is, and whether you like it or not, that is the image and the emotion that she brings to every single thing. Miley Cyrus and Her Dead Pets is one of the best albums probably ever created, from my personal experience, my personal catalog, understanding that the musicality of it is so intricate, it's so detailed. Pablo the Blowfish is probably one of my favorite songs to listen to her sob and weep about a thing that sounds so simple simplistic, that is not about the fucking blowfish. It's and whatever it is, because it is and it isn't. And she brings that and then steps back and brings that in the course of 2 minutes, 30 seconds. Like, genius behavior, genius performance, genius outlet and expression. When she says thought keeping you small meant keeping you safe. And understanding that in every bit of these things where she says, let me grab that information that you're saying and let me respond to you, through her interviews with Ms. Monica Lewinsky, two of some of the greatest therapeutic conversationalists at time, who bring the trauma perspective that says, yes, we were traumatized and are due course, but here's where we've moved on. And why are we not bringing that to the first sentence of the conversation? If it is not about the fact that y'all put these people through trauma on a front page pager, are still going to continue to do so, and yet cannot recognize not only the therapy showing, but the fact that first and foremost, nobody's perfect. And that these are the type of people who get up and work it again and again until they get it right, to the point, and the fact of the matter that she gets it right so many times that it's become almost a laughing humility for anybody else to be witnessing the level of correctness, forward thinking, fucking first and last out of the first and first out of the things that nobody's even recognizing anymore. Like the firsts of YouTube fame and internet culture, just like most of those Disney stars, Miss Selena Gomez and Demi Lovato, also experience, that we don't offer. Like, it's not about, oh, they just went through that, and so they're not, they don't have the executive function to be able to tell you what it's like to survive it. And so we listen to our elders, even if they're younger than us, that they're elder in this experience of experiencing it, being told it wasn't their true, authentic self or experience, rationalizing that and recognizing it, processing that, and then being able to explain it and still engage in the and still be able to engage in the situational awareness that allows for the lens of self-awareness. We can all fucking take from that notebook. We can all take from that. We can all take from ourselves to our younger selves, and we can offer that to those around us who like, life is fucking hard as it is. Life is hard. Life is difficult, and emotional challenging of self, and mothering and parenting of self, whatever version of love that you're able to bring to yourself. It should be patient. It should be kind. It should be selfless and hopeful, and yet at the same time can be jealous. It can be selfish and hopeless, and you can be blind to the things that are necessities to you in a moment, or for the forethought and hindsight, up, down, left, right, and center. But to be able to bring the best of all that you have for yourself, the best of all parts of you, the best of all the worlds that you can participate in, to offer something beautiful to yourself that's not objectified, that's not quantified, that's emotionally processed, that's removed, that's deleted from the recall of the things that your central nervous system requires for you to be able to live that dreaming cinematic life within the world, because it is big and scary and dangerous. But it can also be complex and strong and united within yourself, within your community, within the coworkers, the peers, the co-stars, the other people whose therapy work is able to bring a better environment and experience for either you or your neighbors or your friends. And to offer that reclaiming of that recognition for ourselves as people, having this identity of bringing Miss Hannah back allows for us to see somebody recognize and reckon with emotion and distress and trauma and discomfort, and for her to turn back into herself, because as she said multiple times, she's turned into someone else. And when she brings that part of her party to the forefront of what the present focus of a moment of somebody in that life is like, it's not, oh, that's people. No, that's that's a larger, that makes her larger than life. And at least she's driven enough to be able to manage it in a way that we can all fucking learn from. So thank you, Miss Miley Cyrus, for showing your therapy, for bringing it forward, for gaying it forward in everything that you do. But every Miss Miley Cyrus, the weight of the Haniverse has been on your shoulders for so long. It's just so fucking amazing to watch you just pick up that crown and place it directly on your head. And again, I'm John Nathan, and Miss Miley Cyrus, your therapy's showing, and thank you so much for that. And again, this is from her to younger you. I bring that same spirit of rebellion and revolution of the best of all the worlds that say, like, this isn't about sales and marketing. That's going to be her treat and her joy, to be an adult and engage with the image and the business matters and aspect of a character that helped shape form many of our lives, but her specifically. And to be able to bring a lens on her own behavior through her own perspective, through this process, allows for us to be able to be a part of that identity of maturation, growing up, being humble, sitting the fuck down, shutting the fuck up, and being humble. So thank you, Miss Miley Cyrus, for that. And we will see you in your backyard shenanigans on your premiere of Hannah Montana. Do you get the bag?